Hey everyone, so we're going to dive into the Bitcoin chart today, going into the weekend, because we're at some pretty key pivotal levels for Bitcoin if we want to see it bounce at the moment. Now, you know that I have my two key base scenarios, which is essentially they both end up somewhere between about 20k and 30k. I am not seeing anything to change my mind on that. For me, the only base case scenario is that we either bounce from somewhere at this level at the minute at about $42,000 in this order block that we spoke about earlier in the week, and we basically go to $53,000, take out some of these highs quite potentially, and then move lower down into these sub 30k regions and break this the floor over here. Or before that, or if that does not happen, then maybe we just basically continue to form a bit of a flag here, and basically correctively form this bear flag and then break down. So it's essentially I think either 48 will be the high, or I think 53 will be the high. I'm just not sure exactly which one at the moment. Now, the market is giving us some clues here, right? This is giving me shades of 2018 when I lived in that bear market. And essentially we basically just kept creating lower highs, and every bounce was like really, really weak. And we are moving up very correctively here, okay, which isn't a great sign. And typically when you get these moves that are very grindy, they do tend to break down because it's generally like a sign of weakness. What you want to see for general uptrends to continue is you want to see this key market structure break, like we got in 2021 last year, and move up impulsively, retest key levels, move up impulsively, test key levels, and then keep grinding higher. But when you tend to see this, bear flag action this way, it doesn't tend to look too great. And especially if you look at what we did in 2021 last year, we were basically in a grinding pattern to the downside. Now we're in a grinding pattern to the upside, which gives us the bias that we are going to be moving lower. But I think the key levels for the moment that we want to be looking out for is this $42,500 level that we are at the moment. I think this order block is going to be quite important, which I spoke about at the start of last week. Now, if we can essentially come down here and then start breaking up and retesting to the upside, I think that we can potentially start moving towards that $53,000 level. And we really were talking about breaking the weekly high from last week, which we didn't get. And if you look at the way that price is behaving at the moment, it looks at this very moment more similar to what we got over here back in February, where we basically made this high, okay, over here, impulsively went up, moved back down, retested, and then basically failed and came back down. We've done something fairly similar here, okay, where we've moved down, which we spoke about, which is where we were at last week. But if we move back up into that $47,000 area, we wanted to clear the weekly high to basically give us that momentum and confirmation that we're going to move to 53. Because I think if we do break 48.3, then we do move higher. But at the moment, we are testing, probably for me, like a little bit of a last stand. And I think if Bitcoin doesn't manage to basically get a move on quite soon, then we could fall apart. I think the most bullish scenario would have been to hold $46,000, okay? Where at the start of last week, we were holding that 50-week moving average. If we just bring that up over here, you can see at this green moving average, which was the 50, we managed to hold this last week, which was really nice. But now we've managed to fall back below the swing low of the last week's range, and now we're testing those lower levels. So we want to be basically cautious that we're not doing something similar that we did back in that last bear market in 2018, where we retested that 50-week moving average and then moved lower. Please be careful for permanent bulls who tell you that price is only going to go up. And whilst I can't deny that, buying Bitcoin for the long term at like a 40-50% discount from the highs is not the worst thing if you're willing to hold, you do need to be aware that, there is a reasonable chance at the end of this year that we do end up, moving lower and probably retesting that 200-week moving average. As we are halfway through the video, please drop me a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to keep up to date with all this sort of useful time sensitive information. And let me know down below as well where you think Bitcoin is headed this year. Do you think that we're going to new all-time highs, or do you think, like me, that we're going to see those lower prices and break that 30k floor? Let me know. Now, in this current price action over here that we are at, you can see that basically the next low volume is going to be somewhere at around $40,000, which we pretty much always use as pretty strong support, or we basically just fall and capitulate straight through it. So if we don't manage to hold, you know, $42,500 at that order block that I spoke about just over here, okay, so I think we will start to see some support here, and it just depends, I think, if this bounce is able to hold and then deviate higher, okay, then we can start to potentially talk about that upside. But if we lose this order block and then start capitulating down below that $40,000 area, which is the base range of that daily order block, then I think there is a good chance that we start to move lower. So like I said, for me, always a good time to have, you know, cash on hand, and don't be having an all-in approach, in my opinion, on crypto when there is not a lot of certainty in the market. Now, the dollar currency index, which does continue to show very much a strong uptrend. This is exactly what a strong uptrend looks like, where essentially you move up, okay, and then continue to retest those areas, impulsive move up, retest these old order blocks, bigger continuation, move up higher, continuation, move up higher. Now, that's exactly what you want to see from a strong uptrend, which we are not seeing on Bitcoin at the minute, which we are starting to see, you know, that sort of corrective action, which we don't like to see on uptrends. But we are, you know, at a bit of a horizontal resistance zone for the DXY, which is that round number of $100. So potentially, if we see some sort of stall or reversal here, that might give Bitcoin a little bit of breathing room at about that $40,000 level to potentially move higher. But if we break below there and start to challenge, you know, some of these highs over here, okay, on the DXY at about 103, $103, then, you know, look for this move from about $100 to about 103 to put more pressure on Bitcoin, and maybe that is the move that potentially ends us, and you know, maybe sends us down. And that move might occur in the next couple of weeks, or it might take a little bit longer. But you know, that's the key levels that I want to look out for the DXY, which is very strongly inversely correlated to Bitcoin. So I hope you got some value from this video, and we've got those key levels of basically, if we take out 48, I think that we move up to $54,000, take out some of these highs, take out the remaining liquidity where that CME gap is, okay, move down here, test this order block. That's the potential that I'm looking for. If we break 48.3, that, in my opinion, is the highest that Bitcoin can go, okay, because I think that Bitcoin will end up going below $30,000 this year. And if we don't do that, and we are not able to hold the $40,000 area, which is this order block here, okay, I am expecting support to come in here. But if we break this 40, which is also a low volume area, you can see again just over here where we've had multiple areas of support resistance. If we don't manage to hold this and we start moving into that $38,000 area, then basically we've been forming a very clear bear flag to move lower. And just remember that consolidation precedes expansion, and if that does end up happening and this is one massive bear flag, this is a longer and bigger bear flag than anything that we've had in the previous downtrends before, which led to fairly juicy moves to the downside and impulsive violent moves. So if this breaks down, expect this to move lower with quite a lot of ferocity, which is why I think that that will probably be the move eventually that does break that, if that happens. So they're my two base case scenarios. Keep some cash on the side would be my recommendation. Don't take an all-in approach, and don't just follow all of those bullish YouTubers who basically tell you that we're only going to the moon and you know, 200k is on the horizon. I do think that we'll eventually reach those lofty targets, just not quite yet. So just be prepared for both sides of the market. Until the next video, I'll catch you next time.